invite you to stand for the pledge. First, we have board salutes.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, boys and girls. Congratulations to the Utica Elementary School for winning the 2020 Boys Basketball Tournament. The team is coached by Matthew Watts and Chris Bradley. Team members include Caleb Andrews. Please come forward when you hear your name. Braden Clapp, Carter Durbin, Dayton Eckenfelds, Braylon Gray, Preston Hart, Brady Haynes, Derek Haynes, Devon Jackson, Trevon Mitchell, Spencer Robinson, Grant Smith, and Aiden Toller. And managers include Carson Hasselbrain, Carter Smith, and Austin Spears, and Corey Bradley. We're not quite done yet, Mr. Long. And behind every winning basketball team is a great cheer squad. So we want to recognize our girls: Vivian Gilbert, Harper Mattingly, Michaela McRae, Lacey Miles, Malia Morrison, Haluka Akinbayar, Olivia Spencer, Elise Stocksdale, McKenna Taylor, Madeline Watts, and Mallory Watts, and they are coached by Starla Brown McFarland. Great job, Jets. We're so proud of you.
Also, this team was undefeated the whole year.
Wow.
Nobody got within, only one team got within 10 points of it. Is that right? Congratulations, guys and ladies.
If you would like to at this time, you may leave, or you can stay for the rest of the board meeting.
I just want to make sure you have it. Yeah. I'm looking for Dee. I'm like, where's Dee at? Oh, yeah. Y'all wait.
It's better up here. It's where all the little kids sit.
Okay, our first item is approval of the agenda. Board, may I have a motion? May I have a second? Thank you, Dr. Clayton. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? We now have approval of minutes from the previous meeting, and that is the regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes. Board, may I have a motion?
Madam President, I'll go ahead.
Madam President, I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any questions or discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the previous meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
not opposed, but I wasn't here, so I have to abstain.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. We have no public comments on agenda items. So now we have the fund monitoring report. And Mr. Lawson.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Dr. Dykle is under the weather tonight, so he's not here, and I'll go over this briefly with you. When you look at the education fund and the balance, we're sitting at just under $1.5 million in that, in terms of what it looks like for years in, which is heading in the right direction. The debt service fund has just over $4 million in it, and is looking good in terms of what we're trying to do. The pension debt fund, as you know, is pretty consistent, and that balance is a little over $400,000. And the operations fund is just a little over $941,000. And probably the key one that we're monitoring always is the rainy day fund. No money's been taken out of that, so it's still sitting at just under $2.4 million. If you have any questions, we'll certainly try to answer them.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Next, we have the consent agenda. Board, may I have a motion, please?
Madam President, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. Do we have any questions or discussion on this? All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, we have gifts to buildings. Ms. Hutchinson?
And in this month's gift to buildings, the Dick's Sporting Goods Wrestling Program, $2,000, Educational Foundation, Jeffersonville FOP for cheerleading, $2,000. And if you look down towards the bottom, Burlington adopted a classroom, is that right? Wilson, or adopted school. And donated $10,000 worth of supplies through online catalog orders. And that's the adopted classroom teacher supply program. And that was at Wilson, so thank you, big thank you for that. Total is $16,504.79. I move that we accept these gifts to building as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. Any questions or discussion on that? Comments?
It was a great day, I'll tell you. We had great coverage from newspaper and TV. It was interesting because the teachers didn't know either. They kept it quiet with the students. It was a big surprise. The teachers didn't know either. So it was fun.
Good event.
Good.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of approving the gifts to buildings, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Our first action item is the addendum, number 1 to the Wolpert Agreement.
Yes, Board, and I communicated to you about a week ago about this in terms of trying to expand the scope of the survey, the geotechnical survey being done for the turf projects and the track projects at Charlton High School and Jeffersonville High School, just to make sure we get the drainage right. And this expanded that scope a little bit to more lanes on the track and also outside the track to make sure we get the water away from the track and the bleachers. So I'm asking the board to approve this service agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Lockman. Board, may I have a motion, please?
Madam President, I move that we approve addendum number 1 to the Wolford Agreement.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Any questions or comments on this, please? Okay. All those in favor of approving the addendum number 1 to the Wolpert Agreement, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Our next action item is the Energy Systems Group Project Development Agreement. Mr. Lockman?
Yes, thank you. I'm recommending the approval of the Energy Systems Group Professional Development Agreement. This agreement will confirm The intent between ESG and Greater Clark to enter into a project development agreement to evaluate potential conservation measures, which may include savings to energy, water consumption, and operational savings, as well as revenue enhancements. ESG will begin a detailed engineering evaluation of Greater Clark buildings in order to determine the scope of the work needed to maximize our savings. ESG is undertaking this work in good faith in order to negotiate a performance-based contract. Greater Clark agrees to pay ESG $125,000 for the professional development agreement fee if Greater Clark declines to enter into a performance-based contract with ESG. So essentially, we only owe them this money if we do not do a project with them. And that what we would owe them for is the engineering services and their time at looking at all of our buildings, to develop a plan of where we would get our savings. Asking the board to approve this project development agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Laughlin. Board may have a motion, please.
I move to approve the Energy Systems Group Project Development Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Beltwalter. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Any questions or comments on this?
I'd like to make one comment. I think that it may sound high, it may sound like it's a lot of money to several people, or many people, but whenever you consider that we have, 23 buildings, I think, Chad? 23 buildings that these people are going to be going through, and they're going to be looking at every piece of equipment that we have, everything that's happening in that building. They won't be looking at all the electrical issues this time. That's something that Mr. Loeffler and I and a couple other board members have talked about, trying to possibly have that done also. But whenever you consider that engineers are billing rates are anywhere between $150 to $250 an hour, and they have to go through all these buildings to gather that information and then determine how they're going to do it, how they can best work to save us what we hope is a considerable amount of money, then it's not really an unreasonable fee. I'm in the business, I see these kind of numbers all the time, so I hope people might at least consider that I do some kind of, see these kind of things. And this is what I would consider a reasonable fee.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Anyone else? Questions or comments? All right. All those in favor of approving the Energy Systems Group Project Development Agreement, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Next, we have approval of the master contract with the Para Educators Association. Ms. Geldmaker.
The para-educators and the greater GCCS administrators have reached a tentative agreement on a 2-year contract covering the salary and wage-related benefits. The paras voted to ratify this agreement on February 26th. We would like to thank the paras in bargaining this year, and Sarah Chisholm is here, so I'd like to thank you and all the other paras in the bargaining group. We've tentatively agreed to a 2-year contract through June 30th of 2021. The salary agreement will include a salary increase in year 2, which is the 2021 school year. The increase will include either a 1 or 2-year salary increase, depending on whether the para was here in the 1920 or 18 and 19 school year. All paras of the severe programs, court reporter, or the emotionally disabilities program will receive an increase of $1 per hour on their wage. And that was included in the previous contract, but we now extend that to the court reporter and the ED classrooms. The stipend for the insurance is also being extended to our para group as well. And if you recall, we offered that to our teachers. And this is to help mitigate the increase in the insurance premiums that we saw this year. This will be given to them on their paycheck coming up, the second pay in March. We also extended the retirement incentive to our parents as well, as we did to our teachers. And one of the other benefits that I included in number 6 was also part of the previous agreement, but I included that in here because I had a couple of board reach out to Mark and our cabinet members asking about how this worked when a para would cover a classroom and how they're paid. So I just wanted to clarify and just reiterate that we will look at this at our next bargaining when the contract comes up in 2021. But the paras are compensated an additional $1 per hour or $16 per hour if they're not already at that pay rate for covering a class, whichever is greater, and that applies to all paras for covering the classrooms. And I understand there's been some questions maybe from paras asking about if they should receive maybe more for covering if they're not already at that $16 per hour, and that's something that the bargaining group can always bring up in negotiations in 21. So we're asking the board to approve the master contract as presented with the Paraeducation Association.
Thank you, Ms. Goldmaker.
Thank you.
Board may have a motion, please.
I move to approve the master contract with the Parent Educators Association as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Buckwalter. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. Do we have any questions or comments?
No, she covered it. They're going to, 2 years, they're going to review that pay scale. Make that.
For covering the classroom.
Yes, exactly. So you made that clear. Thank you.
I have a question. Do we have a problem getting educators?
Yes. Yes. And subs.
We have
and
you're right. We have different groups. We have problems getting groups. Different
I have a
groups.
question.
We have subs.
I'm going to table the other question I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of the approval of the master contract with the Para Educators Association, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
All right, next is permission to advertise the 2020 contractor route proposal package and bid specifications. Mr. Shannon.
Good evening, Board. What you have before you and the links that we've sent out is what we're asking for approval tonight. Charlestown and New Washington area routes are up for bid. There have been some changes that we've placed into the proposal package and the specifications, and some of those highlights that I want to touch on. We're going to have no longer are we going to have a de-escalation of fuel. So if fuel drops, if the cost of diesel fuel drops, typically what I've done in the past is I would take that to the school board for approval, and quite honestly, most school boards have never approved that de-escalation because that essentially takes money away from the contractors because you're lowering their daily rate. So for that reason, I'm taking that. I'm making a recommendation to take that completely out of that bus specification and bid package. We are going to do a shared escalation. One of the things that you're going to see in the package that you hopefully will approve tonight is shared responsibility. We're going to have complete autonomy to not only negotiate the term of routes, but also the age of the bus. You know, we're not going to put a limit to the age of the buses, and we're not going to put a limit other than state statute allows for only a 10-year maximum agreement. So you can negotiate a 1-year agreement, or you can negotiate a 5 or up to a 10-year agreement. What I'm asking for is that autonomy of the board when we open these bids and these proposals, that we will have reverse bidding. So that a good example is that Mr. Buckwalter and Dr. Clayton, if you both bid on a route, we'll come in, we'll sit down, and then we'll go back and forth until we get to that level of what we feel is mutually beneficial. Everybody's in this to make a little money, we understand that, but we also know that there's a limit to what we could run that route, taking that into consideration, and then we would begin to also discuss the terms, the length of that contract, and not only that, but what age of bus, what equipment is going to be running, and that'll be that give and take that we'll do with every single route, both in Charlestown and New Washington. Increase in the age of buses, you know, what we had originally proposed was 20 years, and Dr. Clayton and I talked some time ago, about a week ago, and as I just mentioned, I think I'd like to lift that, and that's in that current document that you have. So there will be no age limit on the buses, but that you do have to have buses inspected every 6 months for kingpin inspection, no matter the age of the bus, and then every 6 months, if it's over the age of 12 years, it has to be inspected by the Indiana State Police. So as long as it's passed an inspection, and as long as they've met the safety standards, I have no problem with the bus being 22, 23 years old at the end of that contract. Now, we're going to enter into a long-term contract, and it's a 20-year-old bus, and they want an 8-year contract, that means at the end of that contract, it's 28 years old. That's pretty old. We have to, that's where we have that autonomy, we have that discussion. So that's a piece to that. You know, where I mentioned new DOT regulations, DOT is a federal statute. It used to be we had to randomly drug and alcohol test 25% quarterly. That's now back up to 50%. And in addition, they're now all into a national clearinghouse. So if there's any infraction that takes place states away that would result in a disqualification of their CDL licensure, then that'll be in that clearinghouse. And they, not only do they have that onus of self-reporting, that'll go into that clearinghouse as well. So that's just those new DOT regulations. This plan potentially has the reduction of up to 3 routes, 2 from New Washington and 1 from Jeffersonville proper. And that is a savings of about $135,000 on average, looking at what we pay for a route for the entire year. So that's a big statement. But if you look at our demographics in that area, they're down about 70 students, more than that, with those that are actually riding the school bus. Knowing where our demographics are leading us and knowing where we may have potential loss of students, you know, Mr. Loeffner and I and the cabinet members have talked in great length about the establishment of some of the routes that you see there bulleted. A Salem-Noble corridor, adding mileage to some of those routes that are going to be up for bid in Charlestown. A Crystal Springs area, again, that's secondary, so that'll be grades 6 through 12, but again, trying to capture some of those students that we may traditionally we've seen, and not only that, but we have survey data to support that we've seen those students going out of our district. So in looking at those savings are going to be repopulated into our transportation department in the form of these bullets and in the form of these additional miles in some of these areas. Now the next couple, 2 to 3 bullets are things that you need to be aware of. Again, we've had lengthy conversations in cabinet. What we're asking for is approval of some of those if we see that need. We're going to have targeted marketing. If we have those students that are targeted by marketing campaign that contact us through that process, it's online. It's a school bus transportation request form that comes into us. We take that through and then we'll populate certain stops. It may not be door to door, but it may populate certain stops in and around Clarksville. We already have school buses in Clarksville. This would be an expansion of that area. Memphis, Henryville area. We do not have buses over in Memphis and Henryville area at this present time. But this, if we target and we market to those areas, and we do have a number of students that are interested in that route, you'll see in that packet that route is already established, but obviously we can determine at a later date if we're truly running that route. That will be one of our routes that we'll have. Possible Hanover area bus. You know, we wanted to try and cover all areas, so we know in southwestern Jefferson, in the Hanover area, there's a few locations that we may be able to go into. Again, that's targeted. If we only have 1 or 2 students that want transportation, need that transportation, then obviously that cost benefit analysis doesn't work itself out, so we would not probably offer that transportation. We have a process where students can transfer into the district, but up until this point, we've not had that transportation being offered. So that's what you see as reallocating those savings. And then other considerations of possible transfers, you know, from the Jeffersonville area to Charlestown, New Wash, and or opposite. So that means, you know, we have buses going every single day to and from New Wash to the Jeffersonville, Charlestown area, and vice versa. This would be where we would actually have to try and do the timing. The timing is what really hurts us because we're on a 3-tier system in Jeffersonville proper. So if you had students who wanted from Charlestown and or New Washington to come down to Jeff, that's an early bus ride. That may mean more hours or potentially a new route. We can develop that. We've got spare buses. Right now, we're not in great shape with the number of bus drivers that we have, but we can make that work. I think that's to the benefit of all of our current students. And then the opposite would be true as well. Now, you can't, you know, they're big and yellow, but they're not taxis, right? So you can't pick up door to door to door, potentially, especially on a transfer shuttle like we were describing. So if we have students in Jeffersonville that wanted to go and have an offering that may be at Charlestown or have a small rural feel at New Washington, again, the timing's going to have to work, but they will have to probably come to predetermined locations and be there, because when we need to roll, we'll have to roll to get the kids up to those areas in time. So those are the highlights of what we're thinking for the upcoming school year and the bidding of these routes. I am going to have a pre-bidder meeting. There's a mistake there. I've changed my schedule around to accommodate out. Instead of March 19th, I'd like to have that on March 18th. And we'll do our due diligence to call all of our current contractors, and any of those that would want to attend are certainly going to be, and it's in our advertisement that we're going to put out in the paper as well, that March 18th at 5 p.m. And that'll be hosted at our transportation service.
Well, just to add to what Chad stated, if you go back several months, when we were doing the strategic planning, this came up quite often with the migration report, where we're losing a lot of students from Greg Clark. And number one, how do we keep our students in our district? Keep them from leaving our district. And number two, how can we recruit some students from other districts? And we see some opportunities there if we market it right. We have a good product to offer in our district. We have a lot of positive things going on. We plan on marketing that. We want to provide, a little bit of both. The Salem-Noble corridor route really gives parents the opportunity, to continue to send their child to the Jeff schools, or have the option to send their child, to the Charlestown schools. The hope is fewer of them will go to West Clark, Rock Creek, some of those places. The Memphis-Henryville area, we see an opportunity there that, it's close to Charlestown, not far from New Wash. We have a very good product at both those schools out that way. Are there some students over there in that area that would want to attend our schools, because of what we offer, and also because of what we're doing with our facilities. So that's the reasoning behind this. Number one, to keep our own students in our district, but number two, also to recruit, and we try to do a little bit of both within this plan.
Thank you. Board, may I have a motion, please?
Madam President, I move that we approve the permission to advertise 2020 contract route, proposal package, and bid specification.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Do we have any questions or comments on this?
I have some questions. First, did you say you were eliminating the escalation? Total escalation?
Not the escalation. The escalation will be shared, but the de-escalation will be able to.
Okay. Well, and that's, in your comment, there's no way, if you have an escalation clause, you can escalate, but you can only de-escalate to the daily rate that was approved, negotiated. Yeah, so you never go under that.
That's
Okay,
right.
you never go under that. Just for the board, on the age of the bus, what we discussed is that should be Chad's determination, because, now he mentioned 28 years, I don't believe in 28 years, but there could be a contractor that has a bus that is 16 years old that needs to be replaced because of breakdowns and just lack of maintenance, so he should make that determination. And then on the year of the bus, the year of the contract, and again, that should be, we shouldn't lay something out. Contractors come in, he can sit down and they can negotiate anywhere from 1 year to 10 years. No used bus would be able to go a 10-year I wouldn't do a 10-year contract. On the new one, 8 to 10 years, that's fine. But that's what we discussed, and I appreciate you looking at that. And the other thing is that your individuals do have to pick up a bid form. So you just put your change in your date on that, so you're fine. So,
And those will be available here, those will be available online for download, and then we'll send those to anyone that would request it. Certainly our current contractors will get those.
I have a comment and a question. The question first, I'm fairly positive it's already built into our system where you're tracking students on buses. So therefore, these new routes that we could possibly bring on, I'm quite sure you would be tracking those to, do a cost benefit analysis on them.
Yeah, absolutely. We have software that we already know where the current students are riding. We actually know where the students they live but aren't currently riding. So we build those routes assuming that maybe they would begin to ride. And then that hour to hour and 5 minutes is a max for transport to and from.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to say is, the last contract negotiations, I heard from a couple of the owners, and I've not heard anybody say anything yet, and I realize that this has been out there for them to look at. I don't know whether they have or not, but
It has not been out there for them to look at until you all approve it tonight.
well, this came up on public.
Yes, yes,
This
sir.
particular part of it has been out there for 3 days or 4 days.
Sure.
Okay, and I've not heard anything yet, so I appreciate everything that you put into this. I think that my personal position would be, as a business owner, this would be helping me. So I think it will help our small business owners too.
I just want to say, I appreciate you looking into you're not just taking kids from New Wash to Jeff, but, I've gotten several calls about going from Jeff to maybe New Wash or Charleston or something like that. I know we can't obviously go down to,
Yeah, right now, I've got a bus that leaves every morning at about 6:30. That's early. That leaves
Understand.
from the Transportation
Oh.
Service Center, and, parents had a desire to do that. They met us there. That bus will hold about 25 kids. If we had more than that, then, we had to look at
Right.
running a different bus, a larger bus. We have a bus that's already.
at least we're responding to conversation, and I appreciate you looking into it.
Well, I did a listening session at River Valley Middle School early last week, and I was there at about 7:30 in the morning, and I kept seeing all these cars pulling out of Eastside Christian Church. I'm like, what in the world's going on over there? Well, it was a whole lot of cars dropping off kids to get on buses to go to Rock Creek. But we need to push back on that. That's right in our backyard, and, we need to at least come up with some alternatives for those parents, in terms of staying in the district, and what can we do to help them stay in the district.
Our corporation is a business.
That's right.
It really is. Education is a business now, and we have to compete.
Yes.
We have a good product, as Mr. Loftus pointed out, and we need to be able to promote that. I don't think we've done as good a job as we could in the past, but I want to get working towards that.
We'll work on it.
I certainly appreciate that.
And I'll add one comment. We have fantastic contractors. I've been an assistant superintendent, I've been a transportation director in several districts. These are the best that I've dealt with as far as running good equipment and knowing the kids and keeping them safe and informing us and keeping us informed. They do a fantastic job. So I look forward to working with them again, for the next, whether it be 1 year or 5 years for some, or even 10 for others. We hope that they all do take a look at this bid package and attend that pre-bid meeting, and I'll answer any of the questions and concerns they have on the 18th.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor of approving permission to advertise the 2020 contractor route proposal package and bid specifications, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Next is Bus 802 donation to the Greater Clark County Schools Education Foundation.
Yes, ma'am. I was approached about 2 months ago, maybe even a little bit farther back, by Emily Oliver Jones, who's the executive director for the Greater Clark Education Foundation. And Ms. Jones had an idea. She had ran it by her board, and they were all in support. And that idea is, we hear often of stuff the bus. You'll see buses parked out at Walmart or different department stores at the beginning of the school year. And that stuff, the bus idea is for anyone who wants to make a donation for students, school supplies. They can buy backpacks, shoes, whatever it is, they just stuff the bus. Well, we're going to try and do that and flip the script a little bit, and we're going to stuff the bus, but it's going to be with teacher supplies. And so Emily Oliver Jones had mentioned that to her board. They're well informed, they're behind it. They've got people that have donated shelving, they've got people that have donated time, they've got a lot of people that are wanting to donate the actual teacher supplies. What they didn't have was a bus. We have some spare buses. This bus that I'm bringing to you, 802, has been a spare bus. We've not used it for several years. It's in good shape mechanically. It does have a wheelchair lift. And some of the hardware and things we'll be taking off and using, but they're going to keep the lift, because that'll be one way that they can bring on those mobile carts and shelving on and off the bus. But her plan is to take ownership of that bus, if you approve this action item tonight, and begin working on stuffing the bus with teachers' back-to-school supplies, solely for staff members, and then doing what you would expect, going by building throughout the district. When we ramp up for the 2021 school year. I think it's a great idea, I think it's a great project, and we're happy to be a part of that by donating this bus, if the board will approve this tonight.
Who's gonna maintain the bus?
We haven't really talked about that. I think she'll have to maintain that. However, if there's things we can do to help kingpin inspection and things, it doesn't require a CDL driver. But we'll try and do our absolute best. Now, if there's an engine overhaul or something that's required, then obviously that's something that they'll have to try and fundraise for. But we've checked it out from top to bottom. We think, no, it's not going to be going out daily. It'll be going out maybe, I know, for the start of the school year, and then she talked like maybe right before breaks when they need to replenish some things, right before or right after fall break, during the holiday break, the spring break. So it'll go throughout the district, but it'll also be something that I know with ProMedia that we'll get the word out. And I hopefully we have a lot of our community members and business partners that will help sponsor that in any way they can.
I know we're not supposed to ask questions, but.
Sorry. It just flipped me.
We need a motion first.
It's only next question.
Can we get a motion?
I move that we accept the recommendation for the donation of that.
I second. Who's gonna do maintenance?
We call back the minutes from a few years.
Yeah, well, I guess what I was gonna say on that is that, so with the education foundation, you would have to charge them because we're gonna donate that to them.
It'll be their
So
property.
you would just charge them for the parts and we could repair that.
That's right.
Okay. Answer your question, I'm sorry.
And I know she already has a donation to wrap it, to put a wrap on the outside of the bus, to decorate it.
Of course, all the safety equipment and soft arm and all those things will come off.
But it can still stay yellow.
You can still say, yep.
Is that one of the little activity buses or is that one of the special needs buses?
It's a little larger than an activity bus because it's got the.
There's no, it doesn't carry any more than 14 seat or 14 passenger.
Right, but
Okay.
we're actually taking all the seats out, I think minus, they may have one or two in case people want to ride on one.
I hear what you're doing,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. We're gonna take out as much as we can, it's not
Okay.
the real value for us, but it's still gonna be a great, I think a great marketing tool for not only the foundation, but also the district.
All right.
Any other questions or comments?
I serve on the foundation board, and when she brought this to the board, you're right, it was total support. And several of the board members have gone out to get donations. And I think our plan is to have the teachers come out to the bus and shop the bus. That'd be great. Because they spend so much of their own money
They did, that's right.
getting things for the classroom.
You just filed your taxes, if you're an educator, you can deduct up to 500, but oftentimes that doesn't touch the money that's coming out of their own pockets.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the Bus 802 donation to the Greater Clark County School Education Foundation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Shane.
Next, we have Students' Rights and Responsibilities Handbook. Dr. Hartley.
Good evening, Board. We are well underway in our planning for next year, and this is one of the first steps. Every year, we always review our student rights and responsibilities to make certain that it aligns with any new laws and board policy changes. And a copy of the Student Rights Responsibilities Handbook is for your review. We highlighted the areas and the main change. We pretty much overhauled it last year, and it was the addition to authorize the use of the handheld metal detectors in the event that there was a need to search a student's person.
That was the only highlight.
The only addition.
All right, board may have a motion.
I move that we approve the Students' Rights and Responsibility Handbook for the 2021 school year.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
That has been reviewed by a school attorney, right?
Anything else? Okay. All those in favor of approving the Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, next we have the CIS Summer School Agreement.
Greater Clark County Schools and communities and schools of Clark County will again work in partnership to provide staffing services for the 2020 summer school program. The specifics of the agreement are detailed in the attached document. Summer school this year will occur June 1st through the 4th. It will be for third grade students needing I-read remediation and credit recovery at the secondary level. 20 teachers will work 5 hours a day from 7:30 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. for 4 days, equaling a total of 20 hours. Students will attend school 4 hours each day from age 12 for a total of 16 additional hours of instruction. Teachers will earn $35 per hour for a total of $700. The total cost of the program will be $14,000.
Board, may I have a motion, please?
Madam President, I move that we approve this CIS summer school agreement as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. Any questions or comments?
I have a question that it's about summer programs, but it's not this. If this is appropriate, may I ask? The On Your Way pre-K, that also has a summer program?
On My Way Pre-K includes a child care voucher that would, it's able to be used over the summer months when students are not in school.
But will that be at the school?
It would be, they can utilize that voucher wherever, whatever daycare they wish to attend. So it would not, we won't be providing.
So communities and school will not be there?
No, that would be if my children are in school, but I'm working and I need for them to attend daycare when school's not in session.
Okay.
I can use that voucher to cover that expense.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions, had a couple of calls from some folks that got parts of that, and I couldn't explain it. Thank you, I'll call it back.
It is pretty complicated the way that that works, but that's, if, it's not necessarily school programming, but it's any daycare that they would need to attend during the summer.
Now, what about before and after school?
For On My Way Pre-K, it would also include that. And we are working right now to try to secure an opportunity for that in our buildings.
But they communities and schools, or no?
Well, I had a meeting with them last week. They typically do not, they only do school-age children.
Yeah.
But we are trying to work out everything, so that would be an option for them to be able to be a provider for that.
Thank you.
We're in the exploratory phases of that.
We do plan on having something in place for that extended, in the morning and afternoon. We realize that's an issue, we need to help parents out with.
Folks are getting very excited about our full-day pre-K program. I have a feeling they'll love that.
We've had a great response in such a short time already.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of the CIS Summer School Agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, next we have the Consulting Services Agreement with Teresa Whitlow.
Yes, as part of our school improvement efforts, we've been working with a consultant, Dr. Dewey Hensley, who has helped try to run some consultancy teams in our schools that have been targeted by the State Department of Education. And Teresa is a former school administrator. She's been a teacher as well in both Indiana and Kentucky, as well as the coordinator of students response teams in Jefferson County Public Schools. Prior to her retirement, she served in this capacity in several different turnaround schools that were designated in Kentucky. A students response team is designed to support teachers who are having extreme behavior issues with students in a classroom. It's a purposeful response to student misbehaviors when those behaviors are extreme and atypical. The goal of the team is increased instructional time for all students, including the students who have behavioral issues. It's really set out to maximize instructional minutes, decrease suspensions each month, teach student replacement behaviors, and ultimately create an achievement and academic culture where learning is the focus for students, teachers, and the administrators. She has agreed to assist Greater Clark in this area of her expertise. As our consultant, she will assist and support in coordinating student response teams at targeted schools. This agreement will begin March 11th, 2020, and continue through the 2021 school year. Compensation for her services will be paid at the rate of $40 per hour, and the Assistant Superintendent for School Improvement must authorize the services to be performed, and the work will be funded out of the Title IV federal grant.
Thank you. Board, may I have a motion, please?
Move to approve the consulting services agreement with Teresa Whitlow.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Any questions or comments?
Just have one question, Kim. Who will be designated to serve on the student response teams?
Well, it could be, depending upon the building and the staff at the buildings, it would be an assistant principal if there is one, or an admin intern. It might be the SAM, special ed teacher, people that have been trained in safe crisis management and who have already been designated to work in that capacity. It could be, if they have a counselor, it could be the counselor as well. It's really at the building's discretion, but it is to help when behaviors escalate, to help support, so we're not having to disrupt a classroom, but also they work through a process so that oftentimes in the past, sometimes students are removed, and we'll see them sitting in the office or sitting in a designated location. And we really want the learning to continue for all students. And so this is a process to help work through appropriate measures to de-escalate, but also have that learning experience that, just like we have to teach children very deliberately to read and write and do math, sometimes we have to do that very intentionally for behavior as well, and this is part of that.
Do you know if it part of her curriculum includes a trauma-informed model?
Yes, that's all sort of the foundation of all of it, because oftentimes these behaviors are triggered by all those things. So that's absolutely a component of it.
Thank you.
It doesn't say how many hours we're talking about. I'm just curious.
It doesn't say specifically, but it would have to be within the parameters of the grant. We don't.
You're overseeing that.
I'm sorry.
You're overseeing that, correct?
Yes,
So yeah,
all of
that's
those
fine.
have to be approved by me before.
Gotcha. That's fine.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All those approving the consulting agreement with Teresa Whitlow, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Are you staying up there, Dr. Hutch? Okay. Next action item is final forms agreement renewal.
Yes, Board. A few years ago, many mandates and requirements were set down to the elementary schools if you had fifth grade programs. So we had to really assess the level of coaches training that's required in regard to cardiac arrest, concussion. And so Final Forms provides support for K through 12 athletic programs to ensure increased efficiency in distribution, collection, and verification of the required paperwork for parents and athletes required to participate in extracurricular offerings. The efficiency of parents and athletes increases our compliance and safety measures necessary to provide these extracurricular, or to provide for extracurricular participation. Increased compliance and increased safety measures will result in less controversy, risk, and liabilities for our buildings and the district. The Final Forms program allows easy answers to questions that arise regularly. Oftentimes when our coaches are traveling to away games, not all the parents are always there. It runs through an app. So all of this information is easily accessible to our coaches and the people who need to be called in for treatment or safety concerns. The Final Forms program is software that links to an app that coaches, parents, and athletic directors have access to via their mobile device. The mobile device app allows instant access to student safety information regardless of location. The user rate is $4.50 per student, and to assist with the ongoing cost of the program, there will be a $5 yearly payment from the athletes to the school's athletic department, and the agreement has been reviewed by April Banker.
Thank you. Board, may I have a motion, please?
Madam President, I move that we accept the Final Forms agreement.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Burton. Thank you, Ms. Crumpler. Okay, any questions or comments?
I have a comment, or a question. That is a one-time payment. If I'm in several different sports,
Yes.
it's just a
One
one-time.
payment annually, you pay it annually, $5. And the nice thing too is once our students are entered in third grade, they continue, they're in it, so all parents have to do is update the information. So the first year we had it, it was a little bit cumbersome trying to get everybody onboarded, but once that information's in there, it's really simplified and it goes all the way up to the high schools.
And we're using it.
Yes.
It's beneficial.
Whose responsibility is it to make the coaches, to ensure that the coaches are using it?
Well, the coaches, every year prior to this, they had to, they get their payment to be a coach, and they are required to make sure that their training is complete as a coach. They are required to make sure that they have all the forms from every student.
Okay.
So they've been doing that anyway. Now they just have to enter it in that they've received it, so it's a check and balance. And once the student's information is in there, they also send out the information to parents so they know how to, add the app.
Right.
And then download or upload the information of their student.
Okay.
So the coach does have to check that initially. But when I was a coach in the 90s, I had to do those same things. I just wasn't doing it electronically.
I just said, at maybe some of the levels, that some of the coaches are not utilizing it, and parents are paying for it, and a kid who does lots of sports does not get any form of engagement with the platform.
Well, I know that the principals, Lori Gavin as the athletic director, had a meeting with the coaches to make sure they knew. They had all the information. It was sent out through social media. It was sent in newsletters. So between the coaches and the principal, the payment is collected through the administrative assistants.
Follow up on her question. Is there a way that the student or the parent activates something that they have received? So it's easy to say that I told, what's your name?
Bill?
If the coaches do
Yeah,
not,
it's easy for me to say, well, I told John, okay? But that's one person's opinion, okay? So is there any way that it can be so that, to answer her question, that it is verified by the parent that they have it by going in, checking something? Is there anything on that?
well,
app to do
the
that?
parents' emails can be triggered so they automatically, for instance, if a child is missing some forms, technically they're not supposed to be at the first practice without these forms. So they can send emails to parents to notify them of this information.
Through the app.
Through the app has automatic notifications, and then the athletic director, and I believe Karen Wesley, has access to it, so she can also log in to see what students are missing, what particular items.
But that only addresses the student that doesn't bring forms in. It
Correct.
doesn't say that the parents are aware of that app.
Well, that's true, but I mean, that's,
We just need to make sure that if we're putting something out there, that there's a way to verify that it is taken care of by the parent, or they're aware. And you can give me a lot of positives, but there's the negatives that, well, I never received it. But if there's something on the app that would
you
verify
mean, they never received the forms?
the information
Well, a lot of that,
about the app.
that falls on our coaches, which at the elementary level, we probably need to do a better job with. I meet with the secondary athletic directors monthly. They're very happy with Final Forms. It's being used.
I don't have a problem with that, just making sure that parents know that how to use it or to log in on it or put it on the phone, whatever.
There were pretty specific directions that were shared out, step by step. It was very simplified. Those were shared. They were shared in the newsletters, social media. So I think our schools made a good effort to try to get that information out to parents.
And the reason we want to use this and continue to use it is where it comes in real handy is that the coach has that app. In the old days when I was coaching and some of you were coaching, you had to carry around your folder and hope that you had each player's emergency information, and if they rolled their ankle or broke their ankle or something like that, you could somehow find that real quick and call a parent and say, hey, we got a problem here. Well, now the coaches, they just go into that app and they can find that emergency information right away if the parent's not there at the game. To call and contact them and get them there. And that's why we want our elementary coaches to use this at a higher level because of that very reason, the emergency piece of it.
I have no problem with that, just making sure that parents are how they can use it.
And most of the teams have some sort of parent meeting initially in the early season to try to explain this as well.
As the season progresses, do the coaches provide any feedback to the parents via this system?
They do not. It's really just a management of, to make sure we have all the required forms, that the training is done. It's for our benefit too, to make sure, because we have to make certain our coaches have completed the training for concussion every year. We have to have documentation of that, so it's right there at our fingertips. Instead of trying to search for it on.
I think it's still a physical.
Yep.
If a parent hasn't got a physical sent in, then we would know that the parent hasn't either done their job or doesn't have to have.
And that child shouldn't be practicing or playing.
So I think that might satisfy part of it.
No, where I'm at, I just got an answer. This is specifically for the coach for emergency purposes. Parents at home, that's not an emergency. The only emergency is when they find out the child's hurt, they need to know.
In order for a child to start practicing, they gotta have that physical file on form. And then, of course, as a coach, you want to have that, something to go to real quick. If there's an injury or something, you can contact the parent.
I just have one, it has a database, so if a child in 6th grade got a concussion when he was in 8th grade football, that would still show up for that 8th grade coach, so in fact, he could, okay, that's all.
Medical history, and they have an opportunity to go in and update it every year to make sure the information is correct. And for like our lay coaches that are not teachers, I mean, it's a great way because sometimes they don't see the parents very often, and so they've got all that access on their phone.
Okay.
Does this information cross into our student database also?
It's separate.
Would it be, I'm just asking the question, would it be advantageous for the teachers to have access to that information, for instance, about concussion?
Well,
I don't know, that's just something across my
that
mind.
would probably have already been entered through their health history when they register through tax.
Where this really comes into play is at especially the high school level where IHSA governs that. And if a student doesn't have their physical on file, doesn't have that, technically, like I said, they're not eligible to practice or play. If they do, you have athletic directors and coaches that can get in trouble with the IHSA for letting a player participate when they didn't have the forms on file. Which has happened across the state. Each year it happens.
And our athletic directors can trigger an email to a coach to say, hey, they can check it and, we need to check on this form and make sure it's in. They get busy.
Thank you, Dr. Rowland.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the final forms agreement renewal, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Next, we have a consulting service agreement with Jane Sontag.
Yes, Jane Sontag will provide contracted services as a school psychologist for the remainder of the 2019-20 school year. Compensation will be paid at the rate of $475 per evaluation and completed report. This additional help is needed in the absence of a full-time psychologist who is on an improved medical leave. The cost will be paid from federal funds.
Thank you. Board may I have a motion, please.
I move that we approve the counseling service agreement with Jane Sontag. Consultant. not
Thank
counseling.
you. Thank you, Ms. Atkinson. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bellhop. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the consulting services agreement with Jane Sontag, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you, Dr. Knowles. Next, we have the award of bleachers for Charlton High School and Jeffersonville High School.
Yes, Board. The bid documents were advertised on February 15th, 2020, and February 22nd of 2020, with bids due on March 4th at 2 p.m. We had two bidders, Southern Bleacher Company and A&L, for both projects. And based on the bid tabulation attached, and you, I think, have receipt of that, the administration is recommending award Charlestown and Jeffersonville High School bleacher projects to A&L at their low bid of $1,429,000 for Charlestown High School and $1,751,900 for Jeffersonville High School, which includes alternates 1 through 5. The funds for these projects will come from the 2019 bond issue. The budgeted amount for Charlestown High School was $1.75 million, and the budgeted amount for Jeffersonville High School was $2.4 million. So based on where the bids came in, Jeffersonville High School was $648,100 less than what we had budgeted, and Charlestown's bid came in at $321,000 less than what was budgeted.
Thank you. Board, may I have a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to award the bid for bleachers for Charlestown High School and Jeffersonville High School to AML.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. Any questions or discussion?
I have a question on the Charlestown bleacher replacement. Could you go through those numbers again for me?
Okay, so Charlestown High School's bid came in at $1,751,900. Jeffersonville's came in at, or I'm sorry, Charlestown's came in at $1,429,000, and Jeffersonville's came in at $1,751,900.
And Southern Bleachers number for Charlestown is how much?
I do not have that in front of me.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think what you're asking is a little lower, but the combined package of A&L,
That's where I thought you were probably going with.
for having one company just to do both projects.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that, I just,
Yeah, it's, if you, oh, do you have the board?
Yes,
minutes?
I do.
If you click on the first one, the bid tabulation, it has the bids for both schools, both contractors.
right, and that's what I'm looking at,
Oh, okay.
so. that's the reason why I was
Well,
asking.
and I will tell you, that money that's left over, there's some things we, in terms of the electrical packages that need to be bid out, replacing the lighting at both fields.
Okay.
There's still some things. This is a good problem to have, in terms of having electric money to do some of those other things with the lighting and electrical.
Right. I'm not contesting it, I just was asking the question.
Looks like the difference is about $200,000 in the package between the two companies. If you look at Southern Bleacher and on both of them, it's about 3.4, a little over 3.4 actually. And then with the other ones, it would be about 3.1 or 2. So, yeah.
For A&L.
So that means the package is a little over 200,000 less with A&L.
Okay, I just,
Any other questions or comments on this?
does that include the press box or just?
Yes.
Yes.
Includes press box.
Okay, so. Yeah, I'm trying to know if there's, oh, it is.
It does include the press box.
Alternates.
Yeah, and all the alternates.
Any other questions or comments on this? All right, all those approving of the award of bleachers for Charlestown High School and Jeffersonville High School to AML, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, next is the authorization to bid transportation facility.
Yes, ma'am. So we're gonna change some dates, so I'm gonna, if you wanna write those in, you can. We met yesterday with Heather Granger, who's the architect from Covert Hawkins that's taking over the project in conjunction with Hal that's here in attendance tonight. We're asking permission to bid the transportation facility. Covert Hawkins has had several meetings with us and the transportation department to develop the bid specs for the project. Transportation, we've also been shown the proposed facility. We've had a lot of drivers giving their input, and the bid specifications will not be available until March 11, 2020 for the contractors to review. So here's the updated timeline. And our biggest reason for changing the timelines of when we'll advertise and when we would receive have a pre-bid meeting and actually receive those bids and then take that to the board. It really does us no advantages to try and rush that process. We're here at spring break. A lot of contractors and families and others are going to be going maybe on hiatus, maybe hopefully not quarantined, but they're certainly going to be out and about and maybe not thinking first and foremost about bidding on this project. So we want competition. We want to have as many contractors as possible coming to the forefront and attending that pre-bid meeting, asking those questions, and then giving us the best possible bid that they can. To that end, we would ask that we're, instead of taking this to the board as final approval in April, we'll take it to the regular board meeting in May. So here's the dates. We'd like to have the advertisement be published on March 20th and again on March 27th with a bid opening on April 21st. We will have a pre-bid meeting for all interested contractors on April 14th. April 30th is when we would have a collection and a recommendation put together by Covert Hawkins, and then that would be posted on board docs on May 5th, a week prior to the May 12th regular board meeting in May. So we would be taking final board approval of the bids that come in on May 12th, and those bids would be received and opened in public on April 21st.
Madam President, no, I don't have a question. If I had a question for you, if I was going to make this motion, those dates are not here. It's just what he said, right? So the motion has to include the dates as
Yes.
presented.
True.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarification.
I was prepared.
We'd already done that before.
Yeah.
We shouldn't tell you.
Okay, good.
Okay. Board, can I have a motion including the change in dates?
I move to approve the advertisement of the bid of bidding transportation facility with the proposed date changes of March 20th, 27th, April 21st, April 14th, April 30th, May 5th, and the final vote on May.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
That was good. That was good.
Questions or comments?
Will the bid packages be presented to the board or presented to the members prior to being released to the public yet? Or we don't yet?
Yes, we can do that. That's not a problem.
Just curious.
We have a little bit more time, so we certainly can send those, we can gather those up and send those out to you all.
Sure. Well, another question. There's two buildings and then there's site work. Are you looking at an entire package or?
One general contract.
One general contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? We need this.
That's what-
Finally.
Yes, sir.
I do have one more question, I'm sorry. What percent are you on your documents right now? 90, are you at 90?
We're probably 90%, yes.
Okay, all right.
One of the areas that sort of evolved was when we got into the service or the maintenance building.
Right.
We found out there were a lot more problems in it than we initially perceived. So that's taken us a little more time to do some research and solve some of those problems.
Okay.
I have a question. Knowing that from the garage, they used to have to pump the fluids up to the front, has that all been taken care of as far as, you don't have to do that anymore?
Right, that's what, that was one of them.
And then the last one is not really a question. Are y'all planning to put all those trees? I didn't see railroad track, y'all planning to put a lot of trees out there.
Actually, what we're in the process of doing, that's all coming out of because that's in the quadrangle overlay district that the city planning commission is required of us. Actually, when we put that together and we submitted it to the planning commission the first time, we had all those. Now, the planning commission in February, or the council, I'm not sure which, has modified some of their planting requirements. Now, we're hoping that that will allow us to go back and take some of those out because there's a whole lot.
Are they still going to charge us $175 a tree if we can't put them on our lot?
Well, my question would be, why would we have all those trees?
No, that's,
I'll be very blunt. The reason we have all the trees is because we have some people on the council, the city council, that believe in carbon taxes.
All plant trees.
Ever had trees where railroad tracks were in? I couldn't understand that.
I've worked on a project.
Are you part of the solution or part of the problem?
I'm just asking a question. I thought the diagram was beautiful.
I worked on a project where we were told by the city,
It's a
general contractor, that we had to put trees in a retention pond, and we had to put trees over right-of-ways, utility right-of-ways. And it couldn't be done. And we ended up having to pay to have those trees relocated someplace else. And that's the reason I'm asking about that.
Right. I don't have any problem with the trees, it was just the amount of trees.
Well, that's it, yeah, trees are great, but sometimes if you're putting, what's the rule, 20 trees per acre better?
oh, there's all different sorts of formulas based on parking lots, based on frontage, all sorts of things. So it's not one simple formula.
For the Franklin Square building, we did not have to pay the penalty because we could not plant the trees that it originally called for, but there was a variance. The city did work with us on that.
It's hard to plant trees on concrete. Yeah. I mean, I'm not an arborist, but I would imagine.
All right. All those in favor of authorization to bid the transportation facility, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. And the authorization to bid the tennis complex at Charlestown High School.
Okay, virtually the same explanation. We're going to ask for board approval of some changing of dates in the timeline again so that we can realize the most competitive bid process. So here are those dates. We're again asking permission to bid the tennis complex at Charlestown High School. Coburn Hawkins has had several meetings with administration, including Charlestown High School principal and athletic director, to develop the bid specifications for this project. We're looking at the first legal ad to be published on March 20th, 2020, and the second legal on March 27th, with a bid opening on April 23rd. So 2 days after the bid opening for the transportation facility. April 23rd will be the bid opening at 2 p.m. Again, that's also going to be, we'll have a pre-bid meeting that'll coincide with the tennis facility. So the pre-bid meeting will be April 14th. 30th will be when we'll take a recommendation and gather up all of the bid documents, compile those, post those on board docs May 5th for final board approval on May 12th. The money for this project will also come from the 2019 bond issuance.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shank. Board may have a motion with the change in dates, please.
Madam President, I move that we approve for the advertisement for the bidding of the tennis complex at Charleston High School, including the revisions on the dates.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this?
Are those bids submitted here in this office, or do they go to?
No, they come here.
We open them.
Anything else? All right, all those in favor of the authorization to bid the tennis complex at Charlestown High School with the change in dates, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. We have no comments on non-agenda items. Board comments, Ms. Gilkey?
We won't be reconvening before spring break, right?
Correct.
So everybody, hope you have a great spring break and safe and fun and relax and come back ready to finish out the year strong.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. Ms. Parker?
Yes, on February 26th, we had a tour of the new elementary school, Franklin Square, and I'd like to thank Mr. Shane. Oh, there he is. I couldn't see you, you're so short. And Dr. Hartledge and Mr. Lochner and some more members of his cabinet. And I think we had about 30 that came, and they were basically neighbors. Well, not very many Spring Hill, but quite a few of the other two neighborhood associations. And I've got very positive comments back from that. I want to let know. And I've got several pictures I need to turn over to you guys. The photographer that was there, I don't know what we'll do with them, but she took some great pictures. So thank you. Thank you for helping to organize that.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Mr. Hawkins?
I know there have been some, I didn't receive too many comments about it, but I know there's been some concern every once in a while about how the contracts come up, and once the contracts, our associations and the administration come to agreement on contracts, still sometimes some of the members will have questions, and I would just suggest that they maybe consider, if they're not members of their association, they become members of their association. And if they are members of their association, that they bring questions to their representatives so that it can be dealt with early on in the negotiation stage. It's just a suggestion, and it doesn't carry a lot of weight, but just a suggestion. You remember mess up how that works.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Ms. Brookwalter?
Thank you, everybody, for staying. And glad we're going so smoothly here and we'll be out here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brookwalter. Dr. Clayton?
Again, I would like to thank everyone for coming tonight. I guess what I'm happy about tonight is all the good things that at the facilities, upgrading transportation facility that's been for years needed for those employees. You really wouldn't know the condition unless you were down there that they have to go through. And just to know that we're upgrading these facilities for these kids, that they can take pride when they run out on these fields, whatever they're doing. To me, it's long overdue, and I want to thank you for getting things started. Both everybody that's been involved.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton.
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Hutchinson?
There are pictures of me floating around. You can find me on Facebook. I am available for parties. Besides Patrick and I went to a field trip. We chaperoned, I don't know who was chaperoning him, but I got to go on a field trip with the art and Spanish program jump high, and it was so much fun. It was very intimidating. The kids did a much better job than I did. But my plate will be selling on eBay. If you want to bid on it, I'll make sure. I'll be bidding against my mother. It's a still life. It's very deep. I want to tell you what it means, but I want to know what it means.
It was a very good phone that you did.
Yeah, well, the phone, yeah, this is an iPhone.
I got a signed copy. Someday it could be worse.
Thank you guys for coming. Happy spring break.
And I am so excited about the transportation building. I have been in it. And it's about time. I'm so excited about that more than anything. If we could only do one thing in the whole world, that would have been my choice. So thanks for everybody who's had a piece in that. Mr. Lawson?
Thank you. I wanted to do a quick update for the board just on, obviously, we all know there's a health issue going on all around us. I want to reassure you that our cabinet, our team, has, these last 2 days have seemed like it's lasted 2 weeks as of April, in terms of the time we put into making sure we're prepared for what to do next. And I can assure you we're preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. We're taking our guidance from the county health department. If they make a recommendation that we need to close the school or the school district, then we will do so. And we are prepared to do e-learning with our students for an extended period of time. We met with our principals yesterday at 1, and so we're going to continue to monitor the situation. We're going to continue our discussions with the county health department, and we'll certainly keep you guys updated on anything of significance, that comes our way that we have to deal with. But we are in constant contact with the health department on what's going on in the area.
Thank you. I feel very confident that your team is taking this very seriously. I appreciate that, and I know all of our team does too. I saw this afternoon that IU, Bloomington, is going to close after spring break for 2 weeks.
They say that preventative closures are much more effective than reactive closures.
They've actually told me, I got an email today about no face-to-face classes, and 2 weeks after the break, a lot of international students that they're able to see.
And like you said, Maria is closing the entire semester.
And we're preparing for that. I mean, if it hits us there, we're prepared for that. Like I said, we met with the principals yesterday. We asked our principals to go back to their schools, have meetings with their teachers to make sure they start preparing to put together extended lesson plans over the course of a week, 2 weeks.
They're not closing, they're going to an online format.
Yes.
I think one of the things we need to also keep in mind, and I'm not trying to discount it, but there have been, I think, 20-some thousand deaths in the United States this year from influenza, and we've had less than, I think, 10 or 100, less than 100 of the coronavirus in the United States. So it is something to be concerned with.
It's just the unknown.
It's the unknown, and it does sell newspapers. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you. Ms. Gilbaker? No? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I would be adjourned.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.